Hi guys, welcome to TV Movie. Welcome back to TV Movie Mistress. Um, it's me, Mo, your host. It's been a while. I'm back. Guess who's back? Guess who's motherfucking back? I. Um, so it's been a couple of months. To all my old listeners, thank you for being patient. For new listeners, welcome. If you've never listened to me before, if this is your first time, welcome to TV Movie Mistress. I talk about a lot of television that I watch, and that is a shit ton. I watch American TV, British TV, Asian television, BL, dramas. I love fantasy shit. I watch movies. I love history. I'm very opinionated. So all of that, that's a brief overview of me. Obviously, there's hundreds of podcasts to get to know me if you want to continue to hang around. So, there's that. But yeah, so I've been on hiatus since the end of April. I got surgery done. Yay. That has been a blessing. So I got like fibroid removal surgery, if we want to share. And god damn, that shit was painful, but the results were what I needed. Like just a complete night and day in terms of life being better and not constantly being in pain. So two thumbs up for that. But everything else associated with it, Jesus Christ. Now I'm on the other side of it. I'm very proud of myself. But, I've also been studying for the LSATs. That's the thing. God, I hate that fucking test. Of course, I found out. I'm like, am I sharing everything with y'all right now? I don't know. But yeah, so a lot of shit's been happening. LSAT, surgery, discovery of HDHD. That's been the biggest revelation, which of course makes all the sense. And I'm trying to see what else has sort of been going on. I don't know, trying to learn myself, you know? Life's sort of been going nonstop for me, since, birth. And this is COVID has been a terrible thing to have happened, but in some ways it's been helpful to force us all to stop and sort of think about what exactly we're doing, for better or for worse. But yeah, all of that, due to the surgery, I had to put a full stop, but also just for my mentals, that was not, I mean, it's, I'm perfect, obviously, but it just wasn't, there was a lot happening. I was throwing a lot of balls in the air. LSATs, work, podcasts, family, um, fun somewhere in there, right? And all of those couldn't stay up. And I recognized that. So I had to put some things down, do some other things, see how that worked, and then just start to reincorporate stuff. I've been podcasting for 7 years. It is my one true love. And or as close to love as I will ever. No, not bullshit. Somebody's gonna fall in love with me eventually. Duh. Again, I'm fantastic. Psh. So, have you met me? But where was I going with that? I get so easily distracted by myself. A lot's been happening. Took time off. Now I'm back. And that's all. But why am I here today? Why am I here today? I am here today because I was like, oh shit, I don't know how to podcast anymore. What would I even? I mean, I have a book full of shows and stuff coming up. Yeah, I have missed just talking to y'all. I really hope you guys are okay. I really, really do. Um, the world is constant moving trash, but we do have to make the best of it. Um, it's fun. Um, Also coming up August 1st, Joanne will be hosting a Clubhouse chat titled Up from slavery, Spartacus and the male body as a commodity. Devin will be joining us. A bunch of folks will be coming. It'll be fun. And on October 3rd, hopefully this never happened, but Joanne has also scheduled a discussion on what's it called? Ghost. God, I ended up hating that show, y'all. But yeah, so that's some of the Clubhouse chats for July. Come through, support your girl, and talk about shit. Just de-stress for a couple of minutes. We all need it. Like, let's not all just do things all the time. She said girl, always doing shit all the time. Like, I literally had to stop myself from like applying to jobs just now because I was like, you've been saying you're gonna podcast, but you keep doing other shit that is not podcasting. And I just sort of, forced myself to be an adult and come here and spend 30 minutes on audio tech issues first because my computer was like, what are you trying to do? But I did it, and now I'm here, and now I'm going to tell you guys what this podcast is about. Hopefully the hopefully the summary will save me because it is like more than 6 minutes in, and now I'm just like, oh, let's talk about why we're here. But yeah, it's been a while. So why are we here? We're here because for the past couple of weeks, not even past couple of weeks, the past couple of months, I have just been down and reading and researching everything about Chinese history. Just like, I watch Chinese history. I watch Chinese dramas, right? Korean dramas, all of these dramas. And I will eventually be fascinated by whether it's the country, the people, something pulls me in, and I'm just like, let's find everything out. So I've been watching these for a couple of years now, but I haven't really delved into the history. And I found a couple of good resources. And just again, the last couple of months, just been reading about, create the formation of like what led to China as like what do you want to call it, as a country, right? Like that history from like second century, like the myths, the creation, the first Chinese emperor, Qing. Oh, and just out of the gate, please forgive me for my I'm not Chinese. Please forgive me if I say anything and it's not correctly how you say that thing. I am really, really trying. Okay, so yeah, so everything from the first emperor to the last to the abdication, forced abdication of the um, last emperor, the CCP, the current, the current power house in China, or the current ruling power in China. And it's been a fantastic, fantastic analysis of the human condition, but on such a long scale. Like it's a great sample size. That's probably a better word for it. I love you guys know I love history. That's kind of why I've also kind of hate American history, because it's just nothing but racism, and it's like 400 years old. There's like nothing there but racism, and they're not trying to do better. So I like to delve into a history where you get chunks and chunks of material, especially like I said earlier, in terms of the human condition. Like, what motivates power? Like, why do motherfuckers keep doing the same shit? Why is it that when you have the opportunity to do good, you don't? How is it possible that in a country, in a nation of billions of people, will allow like a small contingent to just run roughshod over the rest of us like we're fucking stupid? Like, what is it? And again, Chinese history has just sort of helped me in trying not to go crazy, um, because it's also helped me realize all of this shit just continues in different ways, and you need to find a way to balance it. So that's the really serious part of why I'm here today. And that'll probably be it for the serious part. But yeah, again, it's just like I jumped into the real people outside of the Chinese dramas. Probably a good way to sum it up. And that has led me back here to talk about more Chinese dramas. And also, I was like, I could talk about this for days without really like needing to do research. And since I'm just sliding back in here, um, I'm like, why not talk about something I really like and like it's in my brain all the time? So I am here today to kind of do like, honestly, it's just to talk about these two dramas that I saw. And it is one is called The Story. Where is it? Where are you? Where did you go? Found you. Okay. I'm here to talk about two dramas today, sort of compare them as well. First one is called Story of Yanxi Palace. This came out in 2018. And the second one is Ruyi's Royal Love in the Palace, which also came out in 2018. These were two 60 plus, let's see, Ruyi was 87 fucking episodes. That's wild. And Yanxi was 70 episodes. This is like back in like I think they limited them to 40 episodes now max, but yeah, this is when everybody was wilding out like 70 to 100 episode dramas, and it's just like, yeah, I need to stop. Um, so yes, these two dramas came out in 2018 regarding one of the longest reigning emperors of China, um, Emperor Qianlong. He ruled for like officially 61 years, unofficially 64 years, but longest ruling emperor of China. And these two series are basically the story of him and his harem. It's a harem drama, right? And I remember when I started watching a lot of these dramas, for I didn't know better. So for me, like let me preface what I'm about to say with that. I didn't know better. So for me, it was always like, oh, you'll have the emperor and his true love, and even though he has a bunch of like concubines, you know, that woman next to him, he's really gonna love her. Um, and then you slowly realize the insidiousness of like harem life, right? It's this one guy basically surrounded by all the women that he wants. He has one legal wife. Again, all the power is with him, and they all have to depend on him to survive. First, it's whether they can get his love, whether they can he wants to have sex with them, whether they can have a baby. And then even if you do get the baby, it's like, will your kid be on the throne? Does your kid get a shot? So it's just these harem life is just the reality of it. It's that it's just women living these miserable fucking lives, in my opinion, because I can't, obviously that's not 100, but the idea of the Forbidden Palace, the Forbidden City, which is where the emperors live with their families, is just very isolating. Now, let me preface that I'm not coming at this as a modern person. It's just more like the psychological effects of it. Um, Now, for me, if I was born anytime before like the 19th century, throw me in for Forbidden City life, because the way you think about it is outside will kill you. Outside will kill you today, right? So let alone when we didn't have indoor plumbing, television, any type of motherfucking rights. We were an agrarian culture. Like outside will kill you. Like you could probably just be going plucking fucking flowers and a wolf will be upon you. So yes, the idea of being a concubine, a side thing, a worker in the Forbidden City, a eunuch, that is still preferable. Like, don't get me wrong. I would be like putting in my application if that is what they did. Um, because outside would kill you. So again, in perspective, yes, but the other part is it's not like these were regular people. These were women from the upper echelon of society, the nobility, whose fathers, brothers, patriarchy, of course, whose families would try to gain power, gain favor with the king, with the emperor, by forming a marriage alliance, right? That's how these emperors end up with you know, more than thousands. Some have had like, I think the first emperor had like 10,000 concubines, but like some have not. But basically, you can have as many women as you feel you want. Like that is the life, and it's not a so and it's political alliances, and the women who can be chosen as nobles, imperial consorts, the actual empress, because the empress is basically the mother of the empire. She's the embodiment of what a woman should be. She is an example. She is a ideal. So the societal structure part of it, the political structure part of it, the the power grab part of it, and always the person getting the job not being the person fit for it. It's just chef's kiss in terms of mess. That's how I could put it. So before I jump into further sort of the differences and like talking about these two dramas, what did I want to do? Oh, I wanted to talk about the real emperor, sort of like the person that these two dramas are based upon words. Emperor Qianlong. Like I'm gonna like just open with that, and then we'll get into it. So again, facts. I will I will be providing some pre-facts for y'all. So yeah, so Emperor Qianlong was, like I said, one of the longest reigning emperors in China's histories. His grandfather was technically the longest. His grandfather, I think, ruled for like 63 years or something. And he ended up retiring from emperorhood at like the age of 61. So he wouldn't rule longer than his grandfather, sort of like as respect, like filial piety to his grandfather. So he like officially retired, but he was basically still the emperor until he died. So they are anomalies, because the one thing, if you like read about like emperors in China, it's always like at the start of the emperor, at the start of whichever dynasty, like it's always conquered by force. And then by the end of it, you just got a bunch of babies being recycled on the throne because everybody's using them as puppets, whether it's the nobility, whether it's the empress dowagers, whether it's like somebody in the imperial family. So it it's so what I'm saying is emperors living 60 years, even like 40 years, that is not the norm. Qianlong Emperor did it. And he was the fifth emperor of the Qing dynasty. He ruled from 1735 to 1796. He was the fourth son of the previous emperor, and basically like his grandfather's favorite. So like he was his grandfather's favorite and his dad's favorite. Like so he was just like everybody was like, that's gonna be the next like emperor. Like this is probably one of the most stable transitions of power. And in my opinion, it only worked because like the fathers were still alive and the grandfathers are still alive. Because of the whole patriarchy part of how everything functions. So of course, if the father dies, then it goes to the son. But sometimes the son is like 5 years old. Like that should not be. A child should not get to rule an empire. And obviously they don't. They have, people behind them who then fuck shit up. But yeah, so that is to say, the norm is just people not living long, babies being puppets for other powerful entities, and the Qianlong Emperor was not one of those. He was. This is this is the description of a British valet. This is how he described him. I'm not going to read everything. The emperor is about 5 feet 10 inches in height and of a slender but elegant form. His complexion is comparatively fair, though his eyes are dark. His nose is rather aquiline. Okay, we can't be calling rich people's noses aquiline anymore, because I swear to fucking God, like no, the only people who have aquiline nose in books, histories, are just rich folks. Like, I don't even know if that's fact. You could have a button nose, you could have like a wide nose, but oh, that's a rich dude. That he had an aquiline nose. Okay. His dress consisted of a loose robe of yellow silk, a cap of black velvet with a red ball on the top, adorned with a peacock's feather. And the whole of his countenance present a perfect regularity of feature, which by no means announces a great age he is said to have attained. His person is attracting, and his deportment accompanied by an affability. So basically, the Qianlong Emperor is that guy who knows he's the shit. Like, he is very much aware of who he is and runs with that. He inherits an empire with like all the money in the bank. Like, they're actually running a surplus, which leads to him being like a super expansionist emperor. Like, they gain new territories, a lot of like fucking killing, like terrible, like whole society. Not like, is that the right word? Like, whole groups of people just like erased from history during his expansions. So again, came into power, surplus in the treasury, slowly expanded. He was one of those emperors who could handle his nobles. That's all. Like, it's so weird. It's so weird how you can be a whole ass emperor and like you're basically constrained by not only the nobility who want shit their way, but also you're constricted by like Confucianism, because that sort of permeates every aspect of like Chinese life. So some emperors sometimes would just be like, fuck it, I'm not doing this shit. Like, I don't remember the emperor's name, but there was one emperor who, like, basically had, like, the best education, the best teachers and everything. And he came to the throne. And I think, like, after a while, he was just like, fuck this shit, I'm out. And did not rule for like 20, 30 years. Like, he had all the potential. I was listening to, like, this one guy say he basically had the potential to be like an Alexander the Great, but for China. But like, he was just like, fuck all this court politics. And he went just to just live a life filled with gluttony. Because again, nobility is stressful. It's sort of like how we see Congress and senators. It's just, you need someone who's smart and capable to, one, call them on their bullshit, move shit forward, listen to them, but not also listen to them. It's not easy. But okay, yeah. So he was the fourth son, expansionist, very much aware of what it is to be who he is, if that makes sense. Very much aware of all his power. Again, absolute ruler. Absolute. So I feel like we don't get enough information regarding the decadence of some of these like historical moments. Russia, we sort of do. Like, we know a lot about like the czars and their fucking like a lot, but like with other parts of the world, we kind of don't. But yeah, so he ends up like ascending to the throne and blah blah blah, again ruling for 61 years. Um, you know, by the end of his reign, like, he definitely had lived too long, is what I would say. Um, just when you've lived your entire life with everyone telling you literally your shit smells like gold, at some point, no one is strong enough to withstand constant flattery from birth to like their death. So this, like, the last third of his role is just a lot of corruption, people getting by, scams afoot. He had eunuchs who started like just power grabbing, nobles doing the same. And he was basically like an old rich king, an old rich emperor at this point and didn't really like, he was like, ah, yeah, flatter me and y'all got it. And, so he went from a very like forceful emperor, not always right, to sort of like, well, don't bother me and let me know what I want to hear. And that's just not going to end well. And of course, throughout all of these times, he had three empresses officially, a bunch of imperial consorts, nobles. How many? He had like four. How many official kids, by the way? But he had 40. Okay, he had 42, 42 concubines that he canonized, which basically means like were on the official record. And there would have been a shit ton of other women who were just there. So he probably just had like hundreds of women. But three official empresses. He had, I'm gonna guess, he had 45 kids. And now I'm gonna ask Google. Oh, wow, I overshot that. He had 27 kids, which is still a lot, y'all. He had 27 kids. Whew, that feels a lot. And of course, these were not obviously all with the same women, which just means, a fight to the death for the throne. Like that's just what this is also going to be. Also, he loved his mom a lot. Whether she was actually his biological mom or whatever, I don't know. But like, he loved his mom a lot, and like, she also lived a very long time, and she's also a figure in both of these shows. And I just love the actress and how she portrays her. So that's some factual information regarding the Qianlong Emperor of China, who ruled from, or who was born in 1711 and died in 1799. So that's the man. What are these shows I'm about to talk about? First one premiered first, Story of Yanxi Palace, 70 episodes. This initially aired July 2018 on iQIYI. 70 episodes. Wow. And I would watch these then. Like, what? Like, how? How? Like, now I drop dramas left and right, and they're like 24 episode dramas, and I'm just like, we're not doing this. Like, I'll be like episode 7. Like, maybe let me talk about, like, Mr. Dragon. That was trash. I watched the first and last episode. Like, that would never have been me, like, a decade or 5 years ago, even. But, okay, Story of Yangtze Palace. This stars Wu Jinying, I love her as an actress, and Ni Yuan. He plays the emperor. And again, since this is an imperial harem drama, it's a shit ton of women. So earlier, I kind of told you guys how I came to initially kind of have a idealized view of harem life, and then sort of came to see the extremely problematic nature of harem life. One of the things I've also sort of enjoyed throughout is the women. These imperial dramas, when they're imperial harem dramas, or just harem dramas, when they're done well, are fantastic. You get some of the best acting you will ever see from women in cinema in these harem shows when it's done well. Because again, even though the emperor is the focus of attention, he's not there all of that time. So a lot of the interactions are just the women. A lot of it, yes, is baby killing. A lot of it, yes, is induced miscarriages because, like, for me to be special, for me to get an upgrade, I need to give birth to a son. So it's just constant fighting and managing and backstabbing. But if it's done right, you get the motivation, you get the human element part of it. That's that's a very important component to a successful harem drama. And that is one of the things I have now come to enjoy about it. It's not about like the coupling. Sometimes I ship like the women together more in terms of like their friendships, right? I'm sure in real life they were like the orgies, like, and probably also the STDs. Did they have STDs back then? When was syphilis discovered? Let me Google that. That's like the oldest STD I know. When was syphilis discovered? Okay, 1495 among French troops. Gross. Uh, yeah, all these women that he had. Um, Gosh, where was I? I should not have Googled that. So yeah, story of Yanxi tells the story of one of the imperial consorts or eventual imperial consorts of the Emperor of Qianlong. So it's about this girl, Wei Yinglo. She's like a regular chick from the outside and basically enters the palace to find out who like raped her, who is responsible for the rape and eventual murder of her sister. So she is coming into the palace. She's not here to play with y'all bitches, and she's coming to investigate shit. So she is smart. She is played as smart. She's played as quick witted. She's also played as will slap a bitch real quick. Because again, like a lot of these shows, and that's how you would play. Like women will not be out here just like fighting. Um, a lot of it is talking, but being raised to basically be in the nobility is different from like a girl from the outside, working class, kind of like coming into the palace. Like the life skills are absolutely different. But she comes into the palace. She's smart. She's plucky. Um, and catches the eye of the Empress. She works her way through like a lot of like different departments. Um, she's always reading someone. The Emperor kind of likes her, but also like she's his official wife, so he can't just be like smashing. You can't just like have one. He can't just have sex with like his wife's maid. That's this. You're the emperor. You can have sex with anyone, but like, dude, that's your wife's maid. That's kind of tacky. So the end game, though, is she will eventually be with the emperor, but she is introduced as coming into the Forbidden City to solve the murder of her sister. She catches the eye of the Empress and starts working with her while she's, doing her investigation. We also have Zukai in this. He plays a potential love interest for her initially. And, she eventually solves, like, who killed her sister. But at that point, she can't really leave. She is, like, she can't leave the palace. She's basically trapped there, which sounds way scarier than the tone of this show, but she's there for the rest of her life, right? But throughout her time in the palace, she is just very smart. Um, she brings a third perspective to shit. Like people are very easily led and don't realize they're being manipulated. And she kind of is like, nah, like see what's in front of you. And she also changes a lot of people's minds. And because she's happy go lucky, not like in the naive way, like she's not a Mary Sue, but because she's just like, y'all not gonna stress me, she is that much inviting to the emperor. And oh my god, men always want what they can't want. It's basically the story of the Qianlong Emperor and the story of Yangxi Palace versus Wei Yinglo. So yeah, I'm trying to see what else. So yeah, the Emperor is played by Neon, and he was in Legend of Howlon, which she was also in. Oh, he did play Lu Wei. Like I wasn't really sure. Yeah, they have good chemistry. Um, let's see. I haven't really watched a lot of what he's done, but he's been out here acting since like 2000 and probably even late 90s. but first official like show is 2001. So yeah, so he's been out here. He's a good actor. He's seasoned. He brings a lot of. So you guys have heard how I've described this guy, right? He doesn't really seem like someone who you want to like grab like brunch with, but Ningguang's portrayal of him is very much in contrast with how he's portrayed in Ruyi's Royal Love, which I'll start talking about soon. But I look at that as in the story of Yanxi Palace, the female lead, even though she moves up the rank of like the concubine system, like they have actual ranks, like and you get promoted, and when you get promoted, you get presents. So, um, she can only climb so far. She is not of nobility. She's not of a clan. So, regardless of the palace games, she can only participate so high. And in a sense, that gives her freedom that the Empress doesn't have in Rui's Royal Love. So let me shift over a little bit. So Rui's Royal Love in the Palace also came out in 2018, August 2018. Like as soon as like Story of Yanxi and Rui's Royal Love started. This also has actors that I love. It stars Xiao Zhen, who plays the Empress, Ulanara, and then you have Wallace Ho, who plays the Emperor, Qianlong. And Wallace Howe's, I hope, forgive me if I'm saying that incorrectly, portrayal of the Emperor is basically too cool for school. Like, he's always broody. But again, that's also something I've realized I don't like about his acting anymore. Like, he's hot, and he's been hot for so long that I don't think Wallace can act. And I don't think I realized that until fairly, maybe like a year ago. And now it's made it really hard to watch everything he's watching. It makes it hard to want to watch anything he's in because again, he just looks like his acting style is brooding, and that is not an acting style. Example: Imperial Dog Trust. Example: Love Me If You Dare. Example: Journey of Flower. Like Perfect Couple is probably the only thing I've liked them in, and that was like from 2014. Let me not say liked them in, enjoyed him in, laughed with him in. So he plays the main lead, but he's good. He is good for the portrayal of Emperor Qianlong in Rui's Royal Love because he's basically a dick. Like in the story of Yanxi, it's the story of Emperor Qianlong and a lesser rank. Well, she starts out as a maid and rises to become like right below the Empress. And in Rui's Royal Love in the Palace, it's the story between the Emperor and his Empress, so his legal wife. So that's completely different dynamics. Story of Yangshi, no clan, no nobility, coming fresh out the gate. Rui's Royal Love, she is coming in. Her family has been, I think her aunt was the last empress. So she's coming in with people already being like, stab that bitch, because they don't want her clan to get more power in Rui's Royal Love. When the show starts, we're sort of to believe that like her and the emperor loved each other as like kids. And, you know, she's not chosen as empress or chosen to be as empress when the selection happens, but she's still selected. And eventually she becomes his empress. Now, the way this show plays Ruyi, um, the way Rui's Royal Love portrays Ruyi, is she's very much a rule follower. She's very much about the rules, how things look, kind of a fuddy-duddy, right? And like, you see her husband just being like, oh, why do you always want to follow rules? like she's not fun, but her position makes her incapable of being fun. To be a good empress is basically to be a co-manager of a fuckboy and all the women around him, and to somehow like not have that all turn to shit and everybody just murder each other. So it's not, if the job is done well, it's not a fun job. Also, your husband just being able to not see you for months on end because he's fucking all of his other concubines. Like, she handles it well, but you can only handle that so well. And of course, there's also the expectation for her to have a son, and her son becoming crown prince. Like, it's the constant recycling of power amongst a small group of people. So, well acted, but Rui's Royal Love in the Palace, other than the 87 episodes, Jesus Christ, was just more serious. But again, I say that's owed to the dynamics of the relationships being focused on in the story. Now, in Rui's Royal Love, the Empress is very much Empress Ulanara. She's very much, like I said already, a rule follower, but that's not portrayed as a bad thing, right? Other than like being a fuddy duddy. But in the story of Yanxi, even though the Empress is not like the focus of the story, Wei Ying Lo is, the Empress, her portrayal in the story of Yanxi, she's a rule follower, but she uses it for evil. And, that's kind of the thing about rules, right? You can either be that person who is like, look, yeah, that's the rule, but like common sense, let's be flexible. Or you have that person who uses the rules to hurt and to just get what they want. And there's this one scene in the story of Yangshi Palace where Jesus Christ, I'm sorry. Take a deep breath. When Wei Ying Lo confronts the Empress and what accuses her of using her to be her sword. Basically, like, you got me to kill someone on your behalf without me realizing it. So, even though in both shows the empresses are very crafty, um, one is definitely nicer. Put it that way. Let's see what else is happening in Rui's Royal Love in the Palace. Like, I'm not like gonna be talking about this for like hours and hours. Like, this even came oh wow, 46 minutes already. Yeah. So like this whole thing even came along because you know how YouTube does. Like, they'll be like, "Oh, look at this clip of this show you've watched," and then like I'll literally just like rewatch the entire show through via like clips. And I watched Rui's Royal Love. I watched Story of Yangshi, and I was just like, "Yeah, I forgot how good this is." Like, I'll see, like, feel like I'll watch these shows like once a year, and I'm like, "This was really good." Also like the extended harem, and the other actresses. Oh no, before I go to the other actresses, the Emperor's mother. Okay, so we've talked about the emperor and his woman, and let's talk about his mom. His mom's portrayal is pretty consistent in both. She's basically the empress dowager, which means she is the widow of the previous emperor. So she is portrayed as who the current emperor goes to for like advice. She seems very smart, very hip to political machinations. She even outsmarts him a couple of times. Basically because one, to become empress, to stay empress, to have your kid become emperor, and to be alive to become empress dowager. Like, most people, that's not a that's most people don't survive that trajectory. And she also lived very like long, and supposedly like he would have like breakfast with her once a week. So brown noser until like I think like he had like breakfast with her every week until she died. So like he there was like a familiarity because no matter you can't fake giving a fuck for like decades. Eventually you're just gonna be like nah. But yeah, so like I was saying, the Empress Dowager is consistently portrayed in both versions. Really good actresses. They're very like, let's just wait and see. And, also 3 steps ahead. But you also have to remember, like, they are also just as ruthless because they've survived the game. They've won the game, essentially. So, someone else to talk about, who are the villains? Essentially, the Emperor is the villain. Because, having like unlimited women that you can control and discard and love and, just fuck at your leisure, lie to. I mean, you have instances where he was basically like selecting who he wanted to have his kids in the sense that he would give them like some of the women would think it was like herbal tonic, but it's actually like a pregnancy preventative. So he would go out of his way to prevent certain women from having his kids and they wouldn't know. Um yeah, so the emperor is ultimately the villain. But outside of that, in Story of Yanxi Palace, you have a eunuch who is just up to all the shenanigans. Just he has a long game, and it's basically like I want to topple the imperial family because all of this shit should be mine. And Wei Yingluo starts out as friends with him and eventually becomes enemies with him because she realizes he's a bad dude and she's like, I'm not dumb. So he's ultimately the bad guy in that. And I'm trying to think the bad, like, we still have the same throughway plot, in the sense that, like, the big moments still happen, right? He still lives for a very long time. Like, these are both stories where it's until his death. Like, it's basically him from his 20s, so like his death. So it's the actors playing younger versions of themselves, current ages of themselves, and then eventually older versions of themselves. I'm really here trying to think who the villain is in me right now. I mean, the women. I mean, I know I say baby killing a lot, but let's just maybe I can call it like mysteries, um, plots. Like it's more like there are these elaborate plans. This is my favorite things about Chinese dramas. It's always like these elaborate plans. So like one of the plots in one of the episodes in Story of Yangshi was to poison one of the sons, frame Yingluo for it, so she dies, or the emperor kills her or whatever. But instead, it turns out like even though the kid was poisoned and is basically like sick, it turns out his mother had been giving him like a shit ton of ginger. It was either ginger or ginseng slices to eat, which just fucked up like his body because he wasn't supposed to. Like he wasn't good for him, and his mother basically did that because like a higher like status of concubine was like, we got to get rid of her. So, but the truth all came out. But like it will be like 3 to 5 episodes. Well, not even. Sometimes it's quicker. Sometimes 1 or 2. But it'll be a couple of episodes of like the setup, the plot. Will they get her this time? And obviously a lot of times they don't. And like the empresses just rise and continue to rise. One thing I do like about the Empress, regardless of story, is that she does not suffer fools. And I think that's sort of the problem with why, like, the Emperor. Wow, I hope you guys can't hear that. But that was also why the Emperor was like, what's going on outside? That's a lot of light out of nowhere. It's like a fire truck. Oh, it's on fire. Well, if there was anything that would get me to wrap this up quickly, is the 3 fire trucks outside of my area right now. I am not on fire, but it looks like maybe a couple of houses down, something's happening in someone's backyard. So I hope they're all right. So yeah, Emperor, Empress, the leads in both. Um, so story of Yanxi has a lighter flavor to it, but the big beats still hit. The Emperor is still the emperor with absolute power and can do whatever the fuck he wants. And you could be in today and out tomorrow. There's another thing that I love. Sometimes like things just stare us in the face and we don't think about it, right? So there's this concept of the cult palace. It's not a concept, but more like an actual thing. So the cult palace is basically like a place in the Forbidden City at any given time where like you could just send the wife or concubine of the emperor if he didn't like her anymore or if she committed a crime and couldn't be forgiven, but you also couldn't kill her. And it would just be like you had no servants, nothing. Or like they would also send people there when they went crazy, right? So it's like they literally had a mental institution or just like a place where they lock people up because the emperor didn't want to fuck with them anymore. And it and it's just like, wow, wow, like that. Women have been through a lot. Like, just gotta love it. Okay, so I'm gonna do a quick. Yeah, like at the end of the day, they're both emperors with absolute power and can like have like infinity women and don't really have to give a fuck about the this specific emperor, right? Like he has solidified power so well, like he doesn't really have to give a fuck about the consequences of his actions. So again, it's also weird because it's that fine political line between these are all your women, but these are also all of your women because of political reasons. And so, like earlier, when I was giving you guys facts about the Qianlong Emperor and how, like, the last third of his life was just sleep, like, just more decadent. People around him were like more corrupt. Everyone just stopped giving a fuck, basically. Um, one of the worst eunuchs in like history. Like this guy is like number one. His name was like Ishen, and I'm gonna do like a separate podcast on eunuchs because just it's been very fascinating. Just again, like delving into the actual history of these like pretty themes and these dramas have sort of opened up a more complex frame of mind of thinking about these actual characters that were actual people. Like these were actual concubines. And even though not everything survived throughout history, oh, maybe they left. They got dark now. I don't see any more flashing lights. Lights, lights, lights. So like we had notes, right? Like when like a concubine wasn't favored anymore because she wasn't getting coal for the week. Guys, I have realized I would be such a slut for coal if I if I lived before indoor plumbing. If a guy was like, "Hey, you want to move to my hut with like the unlimited indoor coal?" I would be like, "You're goddamn right." So I can't like that's where I'd be at. So, but I'm sidetracking. In the latter half of the Qianlong Emperor's reign, and Eshen, Heshen, was he a eunuch? I thought he was a eunuch. No, okay, no, he was just like a corrupt official, but like one of the worst dude ever. And basically, they found out. So earlier I said like like when Qianlong came into power, he had like a surplus. By the time he died, all the wars, expansions, like he loved building shit. Like he would just be like, "Build me a new palace. Oh, my boo needs that." Or and again, wars, expansion cost money. And then like there's one thing I found out that he used to do so he was very much like an artist. Like he loved art and then like preserving like literature. So like again, just like I don't even know. I don't want to digress too much, but like what he did was essentially like if there was a piece of art that he liked, um he would put his name to it, and people found, like, artists of the day found it disrespectful. But what are you going to do? It's the emperor. So, like, sort of think about it like if you drew a piece of work and then the emperor sees it and likes it, and then the emperor's like, wow, I really like your work, let me put my name on it, like I did it. So, but yeah, but he was very much like a supporter of the arts, uh, quote unquote, approved by, his sentiment. um yeah, so by the time he died, country was basically kind of bankrupt, and this dude, this Shen, was one of the most corrupt individuals. When he died, they found like he had more money buried than the country of China had, or the empire of China had at that point. Like one person had more than he had more money than an entire empire. Like that's how corrupt he was. But that's just another story. But yeah, here is the full cast list. I want to see if there's anyone I'm missing in Ruyi. Because again, 87 episodes. Like, other than like each consort brings something different to the table, I will say that. They all have different personalities, different motivations. Some are nicer than others. You get to see them as women who unfortunately are pushed to this, right? Like all of these rules are created that literally ensures they will have to fight each other to the death. Um, but we get great performances out of that. We also have some actors in here playing eunuchs. One of the eunuchs in here is Yibai from Word of Honor. I think it's Yibai, the immortal guy. He's in this. So yeah, so we also get like a super expansive cast because it's an imperial drama. So that's everyone from like kids to like fully grown adults. So yeah, so the different story of Yanxi has a bit more levity to it, a bit more cheekiness to it. But basically, the lead in that is not, the story is not about the Empress in the story of Yanxi. The story is about a woman who comes into the palace to solve the murder of her sister, eventually rises up the ranks because the emperor likes her and she's smart and she's quick thinking and quick witted, and she basically understands that she's a side chick. She like she understands that all the power lies with the emperor, and she kind of does this thing where she's like, "Yeah, I'm not, why would I ever tell him I love him? Like, no." Like, so she keeps herself in the midst of all of the drama, and that's what a lot of the other women are not capable of doing. There is no self. The game is all they have. So yeah, story of Yangshi, a bit more levity, but those big beats still exist. Rui's Royal Love, 87 episodes, just feels serious all the time. Good acting, but just you just wanted to see them happy at some point. Or like Wallace just show more than one emotion on his face. But you don't really, oh no, forgive me. Um the actor that I said was in Word of Honor was in Rui's Royal Love, not Story of Yangshi. But yeah, and I digress and I forgot. It's been a day. But yeah, I don't know what I was saying, guys. Rui's Royal Love. A bit more serious, not a lot more serious, a lot more serious. But again, like I said, that's due to the story being told. Story of Yangshi is told from the point of view of a maid to imperial consort, and Ruyi is told from the portrayal from the side of the empress. So that's just different goals, different perspectives. I could see why the emperor would be more fun with a concubine or someone who is not politically connected to the royal court. And I can see why the emperor would just have an attitude all the time because his wife, his co-manager, wants to remind him to keep his dick in his pants a bit more, you know? And he's just like, I'm the emperor. I do what I want. Like, eventually when everyone tells you you can do what you want and you have your wife telling you you can't do something, you will eventually resent that person. Um, so yeah. So that's it. I've gotten this out. I'm gonna edit this. I have no idea when this is gonna come out. My list. I'm thirsty. Is why that's happening. Let me take a sip of water. Yeah, story of Yang. Which would I prefer, right? Which did I enjoy more, right? Because they're both. Nah, I'm gonna go with story of Yanxi. I just like the. I like both of the leads better in story of Yanxi than Ruyi. Like Wallace Howe just brings it down a notch for me, and it kind of doesn't. You can't do one personality for 87 episodes. You just can't. And I think that's all I gotta say. I don't have any like that. This is an hour. This was supposed to be like 30 minutes. Going forward, episodes will be kept at like 30 to 45 minutes because I need to not do one thing a lot. We should all try and schedule downtime in. So, still studying for the LSATs, trying to get into law school, changing jobs. Like, I gotta still be a person in there. So, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. Some upcoming things on the channel. I'm going to be covering Warriors with Carly, my co-host from the 100, my boo. Obviously continuing to review some Asian dramas. I haven't been watching K-dramas a lot, but also a lot of my favorite actors have not been like acting. I think, because the more established actors could like just not work during COVID. So hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more of them towards the latter half of the year, but there haven't been as much. And you guys know I love historical dramas. There just are not a lot of like Korean historicals that I've seen. If I've missed some, let me know. I saw the one with my boo, the Queen and I. Is that what that was? Queen and I. Well, basically the switcheroo. I can't find it right now. But basically the switcheroo Imperial K drama. I saw that. That might be the only like historical K drama I've seen this year. But yeah, they don't have a lot. And then you've got your contemporary, so nothing. The genres I crave for don't exist too much, and the actors that would not be in those genres are not acting right now. So I'm waiting. I am watching Dune. But yeah, so more to come. Chinese and Korean drama reviews, all the BLs. Like I was gonna like, there's definitely gonna be a what I'm watching, and I was gonna like do everything together, but that depends on how much BL. Because like I'm watching all the fucking BL, like all of it, even the shitty ones. Because I'll just have it on as background noise, but like that kind of counts. Yeah, just check it out. Like, come to the Facebook group where I put announcements, and then I won't have to remember everything that's coming. Oh, no, we got to put an ending to this. Okay, so this is the first official podcast that I am recording after hiatus. Whether it will be the first podcast I put out, I'm not too sure yet, but I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have not watched either of these shows, please go ahead and check it out. It's on YouTube. If you have Viki, you can watch it there. Amazon might have it as well, Amazon Prime Video. So yeah, so there's a couple of options. Again, 2018, so it's in wider circulation and available for the public. Trying to see. Yeah, so please leave a 5-star review for the show if you have not as of yet. If you would like to support the show, please share the show. Please go join Patreon, or if you want to slide me some bucks through PayPal, that is fine as well. Not a problem. Much appreciated. But yeah, just come join the Facebook group. follow me on Twitter. All of that is there. And you'll keep abreast of like what's coming up with the show because I never remember it because it's like too much things and I have the memory of a goldfish. So yeah, so that's it. A bitch is back. This has been fun. This will be fun. And we'll do it again soon. Peace.